communication. That was the big thing that we kind of saw as the results. Increased community-based living, whether that is transferring from the stocking and taking care of the horses to transferring it to carrying it a humane society. Mine was, at that point I had a classroom, and we did if you give a mouse a cookie, but we did if you give a turtle an orange. And we made orange felt and turtles, and we sent it overseas. But I had a young lady that learned how to use a head switch, and she was my gappy little girl, and we would run her battery down every day. So it was transferring the skills they learned. Alicia learned communication. They're learning on the farm how to care for the horses, how to run the market, how to grow vegetables. So it's transferring it into their regular lives. So, Chris, which direction do you want me to go?
Keep going. Actions and decisions.
Okay. We listened. We listened whether they're actually starting a brand new program Monday where they've gone from 2 big groups to 3 smaller groups. They've taken an old part of the building, and we entitled hers Trading Spaces. They've decorated how they want to. So she listened to her staff. I listened to my students. She's listened to the people, whether it's staff or the people on the farm. Grant works with people, and right now they're at Newport Aquarium, and we're taking a field trip. We're going right now. And then we build on their strengths, whether it was Alicia learning how to use her head switch, or somebody might be learning to garden for the very first time. And then all of our things involved reorganizing or utilizing what we have. They have reorganized a whole area of the building now and decorated it. They're going to find out Monday. The staff had say and everything. So those were our actions. The biggest condition was chaos. Whether it's in a classroom, whether it's on a horse farm. We said, well, what happens with winter and the gardens? And she said they're redoing a building, and gardening is going to move inside, to redoing a whole program. So the change needed, and the third one was staff buying in. Sometimes that's the hardest thing. Sometimes the people that we work with are like, yeah, it's great, but the staff are like, we just can't do this. This requires too much. So that's ours.
Awesome.
And we use turtle green.
Yep, awesome. Great job. Thank you. Okay. Who wants to go next? All right.
Awesome.
So tell us who you are. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Karen Sharp. I'm from Warren County, which is in Southwest Ohio. I'm the Adult Day Services Director at Production Services Unlimited. We're going to talk about our results, which I had these backwards and flipping. So created a positive outlook and culture was the result of where we came up with using a model to be able to engage the individuals in the work center a little bit more, or their vocab program. The other one was program development and a higher individual satisfaction and a person-centered program development. In the model that we used, where we took individuals and we looked at all of our caseloads, looking at all the individuals of the 140 plus that we served, matching up some ideas that this person liked something, and we created a person-centered, community-integrated outing where we start by taking them out into a horse farm and having them do some therapeutic things with horses. But in the end, the idea is while we're going with them, eventually they will just meet us there. We will provide the staff, and eventually we'll pull out, and the idea will be that those folks will work at that farm. Volunteering is that process. They'll start their day, they'll end their day there, and they'll be more integrated in their community and their environments. The last one is a greater job satisfaction and happier staff. And that comes from staff engagement and learning that residential and day services look very different. And when Nikki came to the day service side, she challenged the staff who were a little bit less wanting to be engaged with the individuals to each take a day, create their own curriculums, develop programs, buy their products, and teach the individuals during that day. So it engaged her staff in that process while engaging the individuals to become more involved in services. So the ultimate conditions that started from, or where we got to our actions, were that they developed a shout out board with the first one to do some actual surveys to create the programs. We had a greater involvement in knowing the individuals and the needs and desires of what they really wanted to do through services. And the other one was empowering the individuals to be more involved in their program, as well as getting the staff involved with them. What we challenged, or what our conditions were there was some negativity to those processes, and getting staff to buy into that more than anything else. A need for a change, because everything was starting to look the same and be the same, and people are bored. So we needed to look at some ideas for the individuals to become more involved in the more person-centered programming. And then staff engagement, getting staff involved in a more positive manner so that they wanted to be part of what we're doing as an agency and an organization, and giving back to those that we serve every day.
Awesome. High five.
High five.
Yeah. Good tech. All right. So introduce yourself and.
Hi everybody, I'm Jason Dresden. I'm a workforce development manager for Koinonia Enterprises up in Cleveland. No Cavs. So we kind of had a few different paths on some of the actions that we took based on our informational interviews that we did with each other. To start off, some of the positives on our first track was needs will surface from an individual, what they need out in the community, what we need to focus on in our vocab programming. It identifies their wants as well, person-centered planning, making sure we listen to them and what their interests are. And it's important for the 2 and the 4 as well. This all stemmed from doing innovative vocab services in our day programming to adhere to that rule. And some of the conditions that drove these actions were we do assessments that were driving modules in the classroom. So if we can identify if a hygiene is an issue with an individual, we have developed modules to put in place to focus on hygiene, personal skills, communication, whatever gets identified from those assessments. So the path to employment, we also were working on. And then matching goals on those assessments, matching the goals to their ISP. So you can match outcomes from the ISP to the goals of our vocab folks. Another track we had was having inclusion in the community, or some of the positives that would come out of restructuring programming as well. We came up with an issue of where we were taking individuals out to the community constantly, but we weren't connecting them to the community. So they were out going to a library, but they weren't talking to the librarian. So they'd come and go. So some of the positives out of that was we want to get some more inclusion in the community. Introduce natural supports, making sure that once they're out in the community, they connect, and to educate businesses. When we do go out in the community with the volunteer programs of restructuring, engaging that business in the community, and educating them on our individuals, and that you can talk to them and engage them and work side by side with them. The positive conditions leading up to that restructuring program is teaching them skills in programming, and then identifying their barriers. Our final action step was what positives came out of this track was teaching entrepreneurship, social and monetary skills were being developed, and it helped with grant writing. This was the working farm situation where we were able to teach them entrepreneurship. They run a farmer's market at the farm, so it's teaching all those individuals those skills to deal with money in the community and communicating. What were some of the positive conditions leading to the working farm? They were able to establish raised beds that would allow for individuals in wheelchairs to access farming and weeding and planting and harvesting. Farmers market was also a positive condition that came out of this working farm. Working with live animals, chickens at this point was what we're going to be working with. And all this stuff put together, we kind of came up with some common themes of why this is successful in our innovation is non-traditional approaches that we're seeing here, being able to, some training involved with the individuals. It helps establish goals and motivation for our folks in programming, and integrating them into the community. So
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. All right.
All right. So I think what we talk about at our table is positivity exudes positivity, right? So if you have a positive staff, you're going to have positive individuals. So our results are person-first planning, so making sure that we're listening to the person and looking at them as a whole person and not half of a person. having meaningful connections, not just with the individuals that we serve, but having meaningful connections with the people that we work with out in the community. And then having our individuals find a passion for what they're doing and living their best life. So we look at this as an all-inclusive approach, so we're not just siloing individuals, we're looking at everyone who's a part of that individual's team, because even if you're a typically developing person, you have a team that you confide in, so those individuals should have a team as well. And then failing forward, not just for our staff to fail forward and learn from their mistakes, but for our individuals to fail forward and also learn from those mistakes. We want to create a supportive environment with the individuals, but also with our staff, because if our staff are happy and they're feeling supported, then they're going to be more inclined to support the individuals. Being flexible and being able to adapt to changes and not kind of sitting in this rut and hoping that it just will pass and we can go back to what we were doing, but being flexible. And then having a passionate staff, because if your staff isn't passionate, then you're not going to lead to positive outcomes for our individuals. Thank you.